Well, happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to the live place and welcome, Mary Ellen.
Thank you, Dean.
We are in waiting. We've got Ron is in the room, but he's working on the video right now. So hopefully we'll have him here with us shortly. So we thought we'd go live and start to welcome people. So this is where, honestly, Mariana, I've got this vision of creating a database of questions so that no matter what, I'll always have questions. I feel
I
like
like
I
that.
should, yeah, I feel like I should ask you some bizarre question to entertain us all while we're waiting.
That would
Uh,
be entertaining.
yeah, let's see. Talk a little bit about the exciting thing that's coming to Oregon, Oklahoma, that and
Oh,
is
the American Heartland.
American Heartland.
Uh, Leanne and I were talking about that on Saturday. She said they're taking core samples right now to try and figure out, where to put everything. Uh, she and I are going to cover it and do updates
Mm.
on, what the progress is. Hopefully they're going forward. It sounds like they are. It's just, I know that they said it should open in 2024 or 5. And I'm thinking, okay, well, you better cut, you know, break ground now because
Yeah, dude, that's not a lot of time.
no, that's not.
I'm
Hi,
gonna
Jamie B.
yeah, Janie B, nice to have you here. Paul Engel.
Hi, Paul
Uh,
Engel.
Paul was on. They were giving Paul a hard time the other night. Where was I watching him?
Dad Bills.
Yeah. Oh, was it Dad Builds?
I don't know.
I can't remember. Paul, where did I see you? And Pete was giving you a hard time. Anyway, good to have you guys here. As you know, and for those of you who may be watching, we've super excited because Mary Ellen, hey, there's Space Mountain Dave, right? I was going to say Space Mountain Dave's here.
Oh,
Yeah, he was on Space Mountain Dave's. Anyway, we've got the original Dreamfinder, Ron Schneider, with us tonight. Right now, he's working on yeah, that's true. I was giving Paul a little bit of a hard time too. I can't, but
way to call him out, Paul.
everybody was picking on him, but Paul handled it like a trooper. Dean the Turkey Legster,
Hi,
nice
Dean
to have you here.
Lakester.
So anyway, we're waiting for Ron to get a camera hooked up. Nathan Retta, nice to have you here, my friend. Today is the day. It's my. Oh, you're kidding, Nathan. Happy
Happy
birthday.
birthday, Nathan.
The big 3-0. Woo.
You're getting old, Nathan.
That is awesome. And then another Nathan is in here. Hi, nice to have you here. And yes, Janie B, is he working on finding a dream? I should put some of these comments up. I
but
think that, yeah.
good one, Janie.
So, yeah, we're really excited. And hopefully shortly he'll have that figured out. All right. But so far, not yet. So yeah, so that what's the year that they're saying there?
Well, okay, the first phase is going to be some sort of a water park, indoor water park that will be year round, and then like an
Okay.
RV park and cabins. And then they'll build next to that the theme park. So I think the theme park, I think the RV park is supposed to be like next year or something. Which, when you think about it, if you're just building the water park and you're parking your RVs there, there's not too much you need to do. But
Right.
I thought that it said 2025 for the actual theme park, and
Wow.
that's fast.
That is that's incredibly fast. I don't know. 2 years when they can't get the Tron
Right,
ride built in how many years?
right.
But back in the old days, how long did it take them to put up Epcot? Was it a year? I believe it was 1 year.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. And Disneyland was the same thing. I think it was under 2 years. I want to say it was close to a year.
Okay. Well, then it's possible.
Yeah.
They're using some Disney Imagineers and top notch people to put it together. So
Okay.
I guess it's
Yeah.
possible.
Well, that's something that I can see you and Leanne getting an annual pass for.
Yes. Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah.
We'll get in on the ground floor and just go to the parks all the time.
Yeah.
It's not that far from either of us.
Oh, that is great. I'm so excited about it. I saw Mickey Views cover it, and he was very enthusiastic about it.
Good.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's see. We're still waiting. So good to have you folks here. Oh, we got a few more people in. Um, yeah, I see Ron still in the room. They still don't have video. Let's see. Well, we'll give them a couple more minutes.
It's not those in chat. It's not 20 questions night, but
Yeah.
uh, if you have any questions for the Dreamfinder, make sure you drop them in chat so that we can ask him your questions.
Yeah, Mary Ellen and I talk about how much we want to have the chat sort of drive our live streams. And it's hard, especially like if the whole panel is here, you're trying to focus on 5 different people asking questions and the guest, and then watch the chat. But it's just Mary Ellen and I tonight. And I'm going to do my best. So if you have a question for Ron, the Dream Finder, from Journey to Imagination into Imagination, then we'll try to get it on the screen here. But so far, okay. Question number 2. Do you do you have a drought in Oklahoma this year?
Uh, we ran to it. May no, not in our section of Oklahoma anyway.
Hmm.
We ran into a period here about a month ago where it rained every day for like a week, and that helped get caught up. And it just rained here a couple of days ago, and I see that there's rain in the forecast later in the week or next week. So no, are
Okay.
you?
Yes, yeah. In fact, it's really, and I mean, I know it sounds paranoid, but I have never seen, we're so desperate for rain, watching the radar where the rain is coming towards us and then it dissipates or it circles around
Yeah,
us. It's been that year for us.
I've seen that happen to us too. It's
Yeah, maybe it just happens. Maybe that's just the way weather works, but I cannot believe how, because I got to water my lawn, and so I'm definitely excited for some rain here.
me too, and cooler temperatures.
Janie B says weather has been so weird everywhere. It has. It's been one of those years.
I can't see chat. Well, I can see chat, but it's slow. So if
I'll
I
put
don't
the
see something, I
you.
apologize.
Yeah, she's on her phone. You can see the thing I just put on the screen, right?
Okay, yes.
Okay, good.
You're right, Janie.
All right. Well, while we're waiting for Ron, let's ask our few guests a question. Let's start with this very simple one. Um, see how well we know, but what is everybody's, oh, they're disconnected again. What is everybody's favorite ride in all of Disney World? Okay, we'll just start with a real simple one. And Mary Ellen, I always like to go to you first while we're waiting.
In all of Disney World, boy, that's a tough one. Probably Soren.
Soren. At one time, Soren was mine as well.
You're gonna say Tron.
No, I've never even been on it.
Oh, you haven't?
No. My favorite is very near Soren.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Got it.
Yeah.
It's a
That's been
toss.
yeah. It's like there's a half a dozen that I could put at the top at any time, but Living with the Land, People Mover, Soren, Spaceship Earth,
Yes.
even Flight of Passage is gotten right up there for me. Okay, we got a few answers coming in. I'm waiting for it. Okay, so Janie B says I go to Disneyland right now, so Indiana Jones, great ride. I love that. Nathan says Mickey and Minnie's Runaway and Figment. Oh, well, I'm sure Ron wouldn't mind hearing that. uh, well, he's dropped off for the moment. You might has he? Oh wait, private chat. Yeah.
he
Oh,
he didn't message me. Did he message you?
yeah, it's in the private chat. I'm just going to respond to him here.
I thought you went to Disneyland, Janie. I was going to say, or Disneyland, because have you ever been to Disney World, Janie? And
I'm
I've never
gonna.
been to Disneyland, so I don't know. I've seen videos of the Indiana Jones ride, but I've never been on it.
Okay, here we go.
What? What? What's that?
Hi, Ron.
There he
Oh my
is.
God! Hi, everybody.
Hello. How are you,
Let's hear
sir?
it. Fine. Let's hear it for James.
Hi, Ron.
James.
Thanks,
Hi.
James.
Thank you, buddy.
You're welcome.
Wow, I can't believe it. It's great to have you here, Ron.
It's great to be here. Finally.
It's kind of like the legend of Walt's frozen head, if I might say.
You would say that, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Well, nice to have you here. Thank you very much. We sure appreciate it. What we try to do is monthly try to interview somebody in the Disney community. And when Mary Ellen said she might be able to get the Dreamfinder on, we were obviously very excited about that. So thank you.
All right.
We would like to ask you some questions, and we would also like to have the chat ask you questions as well. So you might see some come up on the screen. Go ahead, guys. I'm hearing something. Are you all hearing something?
Yeah, I think it's feedback.
Okay, yeah. I think that worked. Wait, nope, I'm hearing it again. Okay, yeah, there's some.
Everything's fine.
It might be your microphone.
Oh, my microphone.
Yes. Because you're not using headphones.
That's right. Should I use headphones?
It's up to them.
Let me try. I'll try using headphones. See if that
Okay.
helps.
I also brought you a small light so they can see your face.
Hi there. How's that?
That sounds wonderful.
Better.
Rockin' Robin, welcome
I
to
can
the
hear
chat.
you. I can hear you fine too.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Ron, what we would like to do is just start asking lots of questions. And I thought,
All right.
let's start with some really simple ones because we know where your legacy is, but we want to start with the obvious. I'm going to start with what is your favorite park? And I'm just not going to assume it's the one I think it is.
No, it's the one you think it is. It's
Okay.
Disneyland. Disneyland is home.
Disneyland. No, it's not the one I thought. I thought you were going to say Epcot.
No, I'm from Southern California, and
Oh.
I was at Disneyland the day the park opened in 1955, and I was there working there for the 25th anniversary, and I was there for the 50th anniversary, and so no, that's home for me.
Well, since you brought that up, and Marielle, I'm just going to interject this now, is I have read so much about that day in 1955 and what a crazy day it was. Was it wonderful? Was it a nightmare, or was it both?
I was 2.5 years old, so
Okay.
frankly, my only memory that I have is lunch, which is typical for me. We had lunch at the Golden Horseshoe.
Oh yeah.
We were seated towards the back of the house. The beautiful waitress brought me a sandwich and a soft drink, and I was so wrapped up in the food that I never paid any attention to what was going on at the other end of the room. The ironic thing is that 25 years later to the day, I was the thing going on at the other end of the room.
Oh, is that right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. No, that is a nice nugget. I never knew that. Okay, Ron, we do have a question from the chat, which is, do you have the original Figment there with you? Just wondering.
I do not have the original Figment with me. I had him for a short while, a couple of years. I borrowed him from one of the Dreamfinders who managed to smuggle him out of the park.
Huh.
And I had him for a couple of years. Then back in 2011, we did the D23 event where I came back as Dreamfinder, and he's Figment for that.
Okay.
That after the show, there was people were talking about, let's do this again. And I said, no, I don't want to do it again. We did it. It surprised everybody. And so I gave Figment away to Tony Baxter.
Oh, yeah. And I know a little bit about Tony Baxter as well. So, all right. Well, I want to welcome Sherry to the chat. And I see James is in there.
Hey,
nice to have you
James.
here. All right. Mary Ellen.
Okay. So, where did you start when you joined Disney? Was it with Dreamfinder, or did you start someplace else?
My very first job for a theme park at all was doing wardrobe issue for the Christmas parade in 1970 at Disneyland. I worked in a big circus tent out in back of the park by what they call the Pony Farm. And showed up, and we did 2 parades a day. And I was in charge of I was in charge of nothing, but I was handing the parade costumes out to the people who were doing the parade, and then we would take them in after the parade, spray them down to keep them from smelling, and then get them all dried and ready for the second parade of the day. And that was my very first theme park job.
Wow.
Yeah, is that what led to your connection later, so that you got the Dreamfinder?
No, had nothing to do with it.
Okay.
That was simply the dream coming true of me having a job at Disneyland, and it was only for a couple of weeks, but it was 20 or 10 years later that I got hired on at the Golden Horseshoe. The reason being, the intervening 10 years, I became a Universal Studios tour guide. I opened Six Flags Magic Mountain. I was a performer there. I worked at several themed restaurants, and all towards an idea towards getting into the Golden Horseshoe. That was my dream job, and spent those 10 years getting ready for it. And then in 1980, they held auditions for the 25th anniversary year of Disneyland, and they wanted a second cast for the Horseshoe, and I walked in and got the job.
Wow.
Wow, that's awesome.
And that was the Golden Horseshoe is how many years before Epcot?
The Golden Horseshoe opened in 1955.
Okay.
I worked there from 1980 to 82. I left the Golden Horseshoe to come to Epcot Center.
Okay, so right away afterwards, because that's when you were Dreamfinder, right?
Yep.
Can I ask how that happened? I know it's covered in your book, I'm sure, but can you elaborate a little bit on what was the sequence of events that landed you that job?
I was doing the Golden Horseshoe, and I was privy to all the fun little backstage things that they let us do. They had a seminar at the University of Disneyland conducted by young Tony Baxter. He talked about careers at WED Enterprises. And he was talking to us about the project he was working on at the time, which was the Journey into Imagination. This is back in the day when the Imagineers could talk about what they were doing. That was before you and I got into the business of talking about it. And so he talked about the imagination, the pavilion. He held up a picture of Dreamfinder and Figment and said, these are going to be the only Disney characters in all of Epcot Center. Huh. And I saw that, and it was exactly the same thing I had the first time I saw the Golden Horseshoe. I said, I want to do that. That's got to be me. So I went to the boss, head of talent booking, and said, listen, are you going to have this character walking around? Because if you are, I'd like to do it. Yeah. Well, by that time, I'd had 12 years in theme park entertainment, playing all these different characters. So I was ideally suited to being plugged into that hole. So that's how I got the job, and I was on my own after that. Nobody ever told me how to do it or what to do. I created my own, wrote my own book. It was a lot of fun.
Wow. Mary Ellen?
So in your time at being Dreamfinder, did you meet any celebrities?
Oh yeah, quite a few people who were heroes to me. Mark Wilson was the magician from the Magic Land of Alakazam. Bev Bergeron. I met Red Skelton. But the one I'm most famous for meeting is Michael Jackson.
Oh, wow!
I was sitting up in our dressing room. We got a call that Michael Jackson was downstairs and wanted to meet the Dreamfinder. So I threw on the dragon, went on downstairs, and they had the whole garden area roped off for him. And Figment and I went over and introduced ourselves, and he was very, very nice.
Was that when he was coming on to do Captain EO, or before then?
This was long before Captain EO. It was this was long before Captain EO. He in fact, the day we met him was the day after Thriller had debuted on MTV.
Oh wow!
Wow, that's amazing. I can see Michael Jackson being into Journey into Imagination and you and Figment. That makes total sense.
And he was in the park, I found out later. He was using our dressing room up in Imagination as an area to get away from the crowds.
Oh, wow. That makes sense.
Mhm.
So, Ron, we have a Mike Wheeler in the chat, and he is a former cast member, and I was going to ask about it later, but he said you were great in the indie film titled "The Further Adventures of Walt's Frozen Head." So,
Thank you, Mike.
I
yeah.
saw that. You were. That was awesome.
So
It was a
I'm
lot
gonna,
of fun.
I'm gonna assume the answer is that Mike and Ron were probably not connected while they both worked there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike said no.
So okay, so let me see. So Ron, when you were first brought in for creating this character, did Disney have a blank slate? Like did they have a specific vision for it, or did you kind of invent the whole thing?
They had the ride. Everything. The ride was virtually finished, and they were just putting the last pieces into it when I got there. So first thing I saw was the turntable scene, the flight through the Dreamport. I saw that when I first applied for the job. I got an invitation to go to Wet Enterprises and see the setup. And Tony Baxter sat down with me and told me the backstory on the characters and how they came up with the ride and all this stuff. It just kind of spilled his guts. And so then I took that information and just ran with it. There was nobody. I was familiar with theme parks. I was familiar with the characters and like that, but nobody had ever done Dreamfinder or a character like him, really. So I got to write my own book. Now my background is in legit theater, taking scripts and interpreting them, building a character out of what's in a script. And this is exactly the same thing, except that the script in this case was a flesh and blood attraction with millions of dollars worth of electronics in it, and there's a wonderful philosophy behind it. And so I got to take that and personally interpret it for millions of guests.
I just have to say, your voice and the intonations that you did, and the way you interacted with Figment, I mean, like it will never leave my brain. It was just so spot on, and I assume that was all you because you were the original.
Well, the ride, the voice of the ride was a fellow by the name of Chuck McCann, who's a very famous character actor. And he did a wonderful job with the voice. He did his impersonation of Frank Morgan, who is the Wizard of Oz from the movie Wizard of Oz.
Oh,
That is why I believe that is why when I do the voice, so when people hear the voice, they react violently. Women have been known to break into tears because they recognize that the Wizard of Oz voice, and the second you hear that, it suddenly becomes it was a wonderful thing. So I just did a couple of lines in the ride, filling in things that Chuck McCann had not had a chance to do. The rest of it was all Chuck McCann, and then I recreated it live every day.
I'm having one of those moments. Like, yes, I can totally hear.
Me too.
I can hear it now, and I never thought of it. That is really cool. All right, Mary Ellen.
Nathan's asking how
Oh.
old is Figment?
Yeah. How old is Figment?
How old is Figment?
Yeah.
Figment is, according to Tony Baxter, he's 9 years old. He's got the temperament of a 9-year-old child.
Huh.
He was born for the first time in March of 1983 is when the attraction opened. So he's dates from there, if you care to. Those are your two answers.
Okay. That's a good question. Never thought of that. Let's see. Whose turn is it?
Yours.
Is it my turn? Okay. I really want to go. I mean, I'm sure you get this all the time, Ron, and I'm not trying to be make it controversial, but I am one of like the 95% that is a original Figment loyalist. That original ride was so far superior to the other two, that they spun out. Is that, I'm assuming, how you felt?
Oh God, yes. That was a real disappointment when that came up.
Yeah.
I had left the job by that time, I was only there for the first 5 years, so 1982 to 1987.
Okay.
So when they took out the original ride in 1998, I was long gone.
Yeah.
I had a good friend of mine who worked in Imagineering. We grew up together, going to Six Flags Magic Mountain, and worked together from our youth. And he wound up at Imagineering, and he was one of the people who worked on the second version of Journey into Imagination. And we had lunch together back then, and he walked up to me and said, "Listen, Ron, I just have to tell you that I worked on the redo on Imagination, and I'm very, very sorry." So we got an apology, if nothing else.
Did you say the apology was before it actually was launched?
No, it was after it had come out, after I'd seen it. Yeah.
Okay. Hi, buddy. Nice to have you here. Didn't get a chance to welcome a lot of people in, like Jane. I'm sorry, Nate. I'm really messing up here. Amy from AGC Magic, and Najuma and Mike Wheeler, of course, we already talked about. But okay, Mary Ellen.
After Dreamfinder, did you go into any other entertainment role?
Whoops.
You were cutting in and out there.
Yeah, you were.
Any other entertainment roles at Disney?
After
Dreamfinder,
Dreamfinder.
or just what did I do after Dreamfinder?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I left Dreamfinder, went straight to a new themed dinner show in Kissimmee that I wrote and directed and starred in. That was Fort Liberty. It's a Wild West dinner show. I love themed dinner shows. I've done like half a dozen of them over the years, and this is one of my favorite forms. Left there, went up to Canada. I worked at the Banff Springs Resort, playing the figurehead of the resort for 2 summers. Went from there to Chuck E. Cheese. I wrote shows for Chuck E. Cheese
Really?
for a couple of years. I was on the opening crew for Universal Studios Florida. I was in charge of all the celebrity lookalikes. So I hired and wrote and trained the Blues Brothers, the Marx Brothers, Laurel and Hardy, W.C. Fields, Marilyn Monroe, Mae West, all of those characters. I got to hire them, train them, and write for them, which was a real thrill. Wow. And then the last theme park job I had was I was a monster at the Monsters Incorporated Laugh Floor.
Oh wow!
Really? In the interactive part?
Yep.
Wow. Is it the two-headed one or the one-headed one?
That's what I did. I did both of those. I did the one-headed one and the two-headed one.
I love those guys. That is the best part of that show.
Mm-hmm.
All the rest is boring because it's always the same. So Amy here from AGC Magic remembers your dinner show from Kissimmee.
Oh, really? Fort Liberty. That was a fun show. That was really my baby. I worked a lot of places doing dinner shows for other people, but this is one that I got to hold the reins on, and it was very rewarding in that sense.
Very nice.
Awesome.
I lost track, Mary Ellen. Is it my turn?
It's either chat or your turn.
Okay. All right. My question is, so the message of Journey into Imagination was, to me, the essence of Epcot. I mean, there were great attractions at Epcot, of course, Horizons and World of Motion and all that, but the Dreamfinder and Figment and the message was about pursuing dreams. What kind of how do you contrast it to the Epcot now? Do you feel that message is still alive or not?
Well, there's been this major change in the philosophy behind Epcot. You got to figure when Epcot opened in 1982, that was a very, very brave thing that the company did, and that they said, okay, we're going to build a second park, but there's not going to be a castle, and there's not going to be Mickey Mouse, and it's going to be inspiring and educational as well as entertaining.
Yeah. And
for the Imagineers who were behind it 100% to go to Card Walker and Don Tatum and the people who were running the studio at that time and say, we want $1 billion to build this thing. And it was a very brave thing for those executives to say, okay, we'll do it. It was so thoroughly focused on the inspiration, the aspects, and imagination was a late comer. There was no imagination pavilion until very late in the process,
Okay.
and that's only because Kodak insisted on doing something, and Tony Baxter then came up with this approach that was perfect for Epcot, although nobody realized it at the time, because everything at Epcot Center, just like everything in life, comes from imagination.
Yep.
And so while it is a very ephemeral concept, it was central to it, and it did belong there. Since then, management has changed several times, and when management changes, generally things tend to get thrown aside that may not necessarily need to be thrown aside. Priorities change, audiences change as well, and we have all these IPs now, and so quite often they'll hit something really well, really get something that has a tremendous essence of the original Epcot. I think that the last version of World of Motion, where it really felt like an Epcot show. The new Story of Water thing sounds like it's really got a lot of Epcot in it.
Yeah.
So the Living Sea still has a lot of Epcot in it, in spite of the characters.
Right.
So it comes and it goes. I mean, it's been vacant from the Imagination Pavilion for quite a while.
Yeah.
But it's too good a concept to ignore it completely.
Yeah.
And we'll see. Time will tell. I don't think they're ever going to be quite as devoted to the idea of inspiration for a theme park. But at the same time, it is what it is, and so it will always be, in some form or other, a derivation of what Walt Disney had in mind.
I think that is probably one of the fairest responses to that question. People tendency want to disparage a bit, and I probably have, but yeah, it's not completely gone. It's just that it's not the same. Now, the Disney Baker here, who also is a cast member, said he met Figment today. So, what are your feelings about bringing the Figment back?
What are my feelings? Well, I like the new sculpt. Instead of him looking like he's upholstered, like the original Figzilla, this version has a cast head that's more like a sculpture of the original ride. At the same time, the body is a different kind of unit entirely, so that there's a mismatch between the head and the body, which for me is a little jarring. Also, I think that there's the thing with that character. This is something that I had to deal with when I was working with Figment. Is to get him to look at the camera is quite difficult to do. You have to learn how to aim him in order to get his eyes to focus on the right spot on the camera. The upholstered Figzilla did that pretty well, but this one now is much straighter, much more of a piece, and so I don't think it's going to quite get that same kind of response to being photographed. I could be wrong on that. I haven't spent any time with him. Everybody's always campaigning to bring back Dreamfinder, bring back Figment. What they did to bring back Figment in the attraction scares the hell out of me of what they might do if they try to bring back the Dreamfinder. It can be done. They did it once. You need somebody like Tony Baxter behind it, or Jim Zub, who did the Figment comic book. But the characters were Figment was never just a pest in the original ride, which he is now. He's just a pest.
Right.
And that's easy to write. I mean, if somebody comes in and says, "Hey, write this thing," so we got to put this character in there, but you go, "Oh, not you again." So that's suddenly it's written itself, but it's not very good.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, whose turn is it now?
It's Mary Ellen's turn.
So did you ever get to do any Disney TV work, or was it all in the parks? Besides the
What,
frozen head.
yeah. Once you're on board with Disney Talent, they'll plug you in just about any place. So I got to do some convention shows, and I got to do some television work, a little bit of television work. I got to do Santa Claus a couple times, and uh, did some TV things as Dreamfinder, interviewed on various news shows and like that, Good Morning America and the Today Show, and was on the opening special with Danny Kaye.
Really?
Yeah, you get plugged in a lot of places.
Wow, Danny Kaye, very instrumental. Like he was a big celebrity when they launched, right? Epcot.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
Okay, Mary Ellen, any follow up on that?
No, you've been, well, I was going to ask you about working at other parks, like besides Disney, and you said you worked at Universal and Six Flags and, you know, and now you said TV. So
Yeah.
you've done it all. Like,
Done a lot of it anyway.
So before I mean, there's some questions I want to get outside of the attraction, but I want to go back to the voice of Figment. Now, I've seen you before in the park, outstanding outside the pavilion and meeting people and so forth, but the voice of Figment is a total mystery to me. Who was that person, and what kind of relationship did you have with that person?
The voice of Figment was Billy Barty,
Okay.
who you're shaking your head, but if you ever were to see Billy Barty, you'd recognize him immediately.
Really?
Because he was a dwarf actor,
yes,
a little guy,
Oh,
yes.
and he was in Willow, and he was in
I know.
dozens
main-
and dozens and dozens and dozens of things.
Was he the main midget guy in Willow?
Not the main midget guy.
Okay.
He was the old wizard at the beginning of the thing.
Okay.
Yeah. But Billy Barty, I was a fan of his from childhood. He used to have a children's television show in Los Angeles, and they had a hell of a time finding a voice for Figment. The fact that there was a whole campaign when they were creating the ride. They put posters up around Imagineering and Disney Studios with a drawing of Figment and the caption, "Have you seen my voice?" Because they were looking for people who could do a voice that would suit the dragon. They tried everything. They tried old women who smoked too much. They tried a lot of the customary voice talent that was very big in the industry back then. They all came in red. They tried. Somebody suggested, "We'll try getting a midget, try getting a dwarf," and so they put the word out, and they found out, as it was described to me, the reason that these dwarves were all in show business was because they were dwarves and not necessarily because they could act, except for Billy Barty. Billy Barty came in, took one look at it, and gave them exactly what they needed. They sped his voice up just a little bit to raise the pitch,
Okay.
but that was Billy Barty. Now, I never, I only had one recording session with Billy. We did a thing for the ImageWorks that we got to record together, and but I had a couple brushes with him before that, just because I'm living around Southern California. But he was just a terrific guy, a hell of an actor.
Huh. That
Is
is
he
really
still
cool. Yeah. Is he
Billy
still
Barty
alive?
still alive?
Billy Barty, no, passed a few years ago.
Okay. All right. Huh.
What do you think the future of, like, there's always these rumors, oh, they're going to get rid of Figment. They're going to get rid of Figment. I mean, now they're resurrecting him and bringing him back into the parks. Like it's bipolar, like it's going back and forth. Like you said earlier, it evolves and changes, and there's different parts that are still the same, or parts that seem true to the theme. But what do you think about the future of Figment?
Figment is too big to ignore strictly as a merchandising thing. I don't know if you saw the shirt that I'm wearing.
Yeah.
It says, "I loved Figment before he was a popcorn bucket."
Yeah.
Um, where Figment and Mickey Mouse are sold in the same store, Figment usually outsells Mickey Mouse.
Really, really.
For many reasons. The purple coloring, I think, is part of it. And also part of it is that he's not, look at him, he doesn't look like a Disney character. There's all these angles, there's these crazy eyes. So he's not all made out of circles. And I think that that's attractive to people, especially that aren't children. They love that look, that wild look about him. When they got rid of Figment, of course, the big to do came from a merchandise who said, you got rid of Figment. We sell all this Figment merchandise. Right. And now, of course, he's back. He's on all the festivals and all the merchandise for that. And now we have this thing. As far as bringing back a new version of the ride, the way I feel about it is they probably have 2 or 3 versions of the ride that they work plans out, and they're all sitting on a shelf out in Glendale at Imagineering, and they're all just going to sit there for the longest time until they stop buying new IPs. Because when they buy new IPs, they have to do Guardians of the Galaxy, and then we have to do Tron, and we have to do something with Moana. And so I keep picturing imagination being pushed further and further down the trail.
Yeah.
But eventually, they got to do something with that building. It's a black hole in the middle of Epcot Center, and everybody wants it, and everybody knows they need it, but they got to wait for the priorities to come around.
Right.
Yeah, the other day I heard there was a 5-hour line just to wait to meet Figment.
Yeah. Yep.
Mike says, I love how the park exclusive characters like Figment and Orangeburg,
yeah,
are still so loved.
That's Orangeburg is the Jewish host from the. Never mind.
That Mike.
All right. I think it's my turn. Man, I want to stay on the journey to imagination, but I also want to get to some of these other questions because you're in a film where you took on a very prestigious role, the voice of Walt Disney in The Legend of Walt's Frozen Head. There's all kinds of questions. How did that project start, and how did you get connected to it?
As a film student by the name of Benjamin Lancaster, a wonderful guy, came up with an idea. He needed to do something for a class project for the semester. And it's a joke. He said, we're going to do something with Walt's Frozen Head. And it was just that. It was just a joke. But then the more he sat on it, the more he realized, oh, wait a minute, there's a story here. And I think we could do something with this. So they did a fundraiser online, and he held a bunch of auditions with people, not telling them what it was for. People would come in and read for him. He wouldn't tell them what the story was. It's all a big secret. And he shot the entire movie without Walt Disney's head in it, because he just didn't have anybody to play Walt Disney. And he wanted to move forward on this thing. So they shot the entire film without anyone to play Walt Disney. And they put together a trailer and promoted the thing like crazy. And then Benjamin Lancaster and I were both attending an event for the publisher of my book, Leonard Kinsey. And that's where Benjamin first saw me. And I look pretty much like I do now. So I had the beard and everything. But he saw me, and it occurred to him that I might be somebody who could do this. So they called me up at 3:00 in the morning. They sent me an email, which I got at 3:00 in the morning. And I opened this thing up, and it said, "Listen, would you like to play Walt Disney? We could send us an audition tape." Well, I laughed myself sick about that. I mean, Walt Disney's been my hobby since 1966. Since Walt died, I've read just about every book there is on the guy, and the history of Disneyland has been my hobby. And so, yeah, I had a pretty good idea of what I would do. So I sent them. They sent me the copy of the script, and I took a couple of speeches, put them together, made a monologue out of them, and sent it back to him. And they gave me the job.
Huh?
I went and shaved my beard off for the shoot, which is hysterical because I didn't realize how much I actually looked like Walt Disney.
I
had the same,
know.
You
the
did.
same prominent nose.
You also sounded like him. Honestly, when I compare you and Tom Hanks, I felt like you were closer to Walt than Tom was. Tom's great, but
I was not trying to do Walt's voice at all.
yeah.
In fact, the only thing I studied was Tom Hanks. The scene at the end where Tom Hanks goes to her home in England,
Yep.
and sits across from her. Just that whole approach, the way he handled her, is what inspired me. But that plus my own knowledge of Walt and the way he spoke and the way he thought about things, that was my biggest influence. So we took 2 days at a soundstage in front of a green card. They just shot me, and then plugged my head over the course of like a year and a half. Plugged my head into the existing film. So all the people that you see me talking to in the film, I wasn't with any of those people. I'd never met them before, but it came off pretty good, as a matter of fact. I thought
It did.
Yeah. It looked claustrophobic.
Well, it wasn't for me. I was in a very large room. It was very
Yeah,
cold.
I'm sure. Well, Mary Ellen?
Janie says, "Can you recite the Walt Disney line for us, Ron?"
Walt Disney line.
I guess
Yeah. From the movie?
from the, like
My favorite line from the movie is, "Get your finger off my nose." There you go.
Very nice. Okay. T-Town.
I only did 5
Oh, that's right. I got lots of questions.
Yes.
Well, Ron, and it's coming to the end of the hour, so we want to be mindful of your time. But I wanted to ask one more question about the movie because I got the impression that it was, at least in part, a message to the senior leadership of Walt Disney World this date. Is that what Benjamin and you had in mind, or is that just was a side part?
I think it was simply expressing the feelings that we have for Walt Disney. As an expression of that. It was, in his case, it was a school project.
Yeah.
And so he's looking for a grade. But no, there was no message for the people upstairs.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just we're just a bunch of fans.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's wind it down. If anybody in the chat has more questions, but let me ask you this. Looks like
yeah.
Well,
we book, Ron.
Yeah. We want to talk
What?
about that. Your book.
Buy your book.
Yes. Well, it's available on Amazon. It's called From Dreamer to Dreamfinder: A Life and Lessons Learned in 40 Years Behind a Name Tag. And it's a combination memoir of the various jobs I had and the things I learned and how I learned them. And then in the back there's a textbook for writing and performing in corporate theme parks, which I've come to see is really what I wound up specializing in without intending to, but that's what I've done. Is I've worked for Disney and Universal and Six Flags, and it's different than freelancing. Like I never worked at a Renaissance Pleasure Fair in my life. I always wanted to, but the background that I have is working in the big money field, working creatively within management strictures, And so that's what the book's about, and pretty pleased with the way it's turned out. And you go on Amazon and type in Dreamfinder, you'll find it. And you got the digital copy and audio copy, and I get to listen to me talk for 9.5 hours, puts me right to sleep. And you got the hardcover, softcover, and all that.
Okay. Well, there you go, Mike. Mike Wheeler wants to get it, so now you know how. Amazon, look for Dreamfinder, Ron Schneider.
It's almost Christmas. Everybody can get gifts.
That's right.
Yay!
I wanted to, at least before we end here, ask the question, which I'm sure you had many special encounters, but can you give us one or just an encounter that you had with a fan, maybe a young fan that you always remember and was special to you?
Okay, all of you out there who've seen me being interviewed before, you can say this along with me, because I've told this story 1,000 times, but it stands up pretty well. I was coming off of a set with Figment, and breaking through a crowd, trying to get to my dressing room, and broke through a crowd, and there was this little African American boy, probably about six or 7 years old. There were no other kids around, so I figured I could stop and talk to him. I wouldn't get swamped, and I'd be able to get on my break. So I knelt down, and I'm talking to the kid. I introduced him to my arm, and finally, again, I stand up and I said, "Well, I got to go now. Goodbye." And he looks up at me with tears in his eyes and says, "Goodbye, Jesus." Bye, Jesus.
Oh.
I couldn't move. Everybody around me, there's a big crowd around me, laughing hysterically.
Oh.
And I could just hear the kid when he went home. But yeah, I met him. He has 2 heads, and he called me by my name.
That is special. Wow. That is great.
Cute.
Well, all right. I think that's a great place to end it at. Ron Schneider, author of From Dreamer to Dreamfinder. You can find it on Amazon. Has done so much. If you want to watch The Legend of Walt's Frozen Head, it's available, I think, on YouTube. I think you can.
It's all on YouTube, yes, sir.
Yep, you can watch it on YouTube. So again, Ron, we just thank you very much for taking some time and sharing your life story with us.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for being so patient with us at the top.
Thanks.
Oh, that was fine. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll say goodbye to the chat, and I'll end the stream, and then we'll briefly say goodbye to you, Ron. So thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye. And let's